I do have a couple of investors who helped out in a couple of the videos. And then I paid for half of the first one, and I'm paying for all of the next one. So they are expensive. They are very expensive. So my financial situation has changed dramatically, but it doesn't matter.
But you're on a mission for God, and you know you're doing what He called you to do.
Yeah, and there's no better feeling. There's no better feeling.
I think what amazes me too about all this is that you ever ended up doing something so capable and responsible with such a clear head. Your childhood was very difficult.
Yeah, I was the fourth child to a 19-year-old mom, which is clearly pretty odd. She had twins when she was 15, married. The marriage was annulled. My grandparents adopted those kids, which is a story that nobody talked about or knew about, except for the people there, until many years later.
You didn't grow up with those twins?
It's hard to follow, isn't it? No, I did not. Well, I knew them as my uncles.
Oh, because they weren't that much older.
They were 5 years older. Is that right? Does that sound about right? 15? Close. Maybe she had them at 14, 15. And then my sister is 2 years older than me. And she ran away when I was in junior high. So it was kind of messed up. I mean, to give you a snapshot of the way I was raised. My mom was a drug addict from the time I was born until the time I was in the 4th grade. She was hooked on speed. And it was in the 6th grade that she announced to us, me and my sister, it's okay to smoke pot, as long as you do it in the house.
Get you started early,
right
here under Mom's roof.
I had never thought about smoking pot until I heard that. Did I smoke pot in the house? No. Telling a child, here's what you can now do this thing that you probably shouldn't be doing, as long as you do it under the right parameters.
My supervision while I'm on speed?
Kids don't do that. Well, I think the same thing with abstinence, how people don't want to push that. They want to say, well, have sex, but do it in this context. Be responsible. Kids aren't going to do that. It's not in them. The boundaries have to be there. The walls need to be there. They weren't. And immediately we started doing drugs. Now, just pot. When I was in the 8th grade, my best friend from the 8th grade is now in prison on 7 counts of manslaughter, kidnapping, attempted murder. The list goes on. But it was about 9th grade, 10th grade that God finally reached me. I was invited to church, and I didn't want to go. I went, and the pastor was saying things I didn't like, and I thought,
like what? You're a sinner?
You're a sinner, and you need to give your life over to Christ. Well, I don't want to do that. I thought my life was fine. I wasn't one of those who thought, oh, I need this.
Now, you were living on your own at 14.
At that point, you're right. I was on my own.
That's the age of my son. I can't even picture that.
Right, I should.
Living where at 14?
Well, when I was living in an apartment at the time with my mom, and then she found a boyfriend she really liked, and she moved in with him. And the apartment was government subsidized. We were on welfare. And she says now that she didn't want to lose it at the time, and that's why she left me there. She regrets that tremendously, because those are lost years. You can never get those years back. But that was the hardest time of my life, easily.
But here you're listening to words that are not acceptable to you in church, thinking your life is okay? A little deceived? Just a little bit?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And it was a great time for God to capture me, because that could have been a horrible, horrible time. Now, at the same time, I should say, those are the hardest years of my life, were the first 2 or 3 years of my being a Christian. It was very difficult because I was living alone, because I was a teenage boy, and it was very, very difficult to whatever you do in school, whether it's good things that happen or bad things that happen, you come home, you shut the door, silence. There's just nothing.
Nobody there.
Nobody to talk to. Nobody. And those are tough years. Those are tough years for kids.
C.S. Lewis called it the dark ages of human development.
Oh boy, is he right on that. And I sometimes I'll see my children and think, oh, I could never do that to them. The thought of them going through that just breaks my heart. So it's hard to understand. I know that my mother grew up a lot since then. She's not a Christian at this point.
But you have good connection
But
with her.
her kids all are.
All of the children came to Christ.
Is that an amazing story?
It is.
I mean,
all that fragmentation and trouble. That's great.
God's
I
grabbing
like
us
to
one
think
at a
she's
time.
delightfully doomed.
She's heard that a few times.
I bet you're all praying for her. But to take this journey, you did make that decision. You didn't like the words, but you made that decision to, hardest one for a guy, to turn the control of your life over to Jesus Christ.
Well, again, you know, it's another one of those kicking and screaming stories.
Okay, you didn't give the whole 9 yards.
I didn't want to. I'm hearing these words. I'm thinking, okay, that sounds good. I've got to prove the Bible wrong, and then I'll be clear. So I decided I'm going to prove the Bible wrong. Big mistake if you're wanting to stay a non-Christian. Big mistake. So now I'm reading Scripture. I see things that I think superficially, oh, I think this sounds like a contradiction to me. And I'd bring it to teachers at school who are non-Christian, and they'd say, oh, yeah, that's a contradiction. And I could just feel this little tug and look deeper, look deeper. So I'd look deeper and I'd see, oh, I get it. I see how this flows into this and this flows into this. Oh, man, I've got to find another one.
Another
So,
contradiction.
I tried and
I'm sure there's one in here somewhere.
I know, and I tell you, it's a thick book. There are a lot of 40 different authors. We've got 66 books. They're written from this huge span of time. There's got to be problems here that can take me out of feeling like I really have to give my life over to Christ. So I tried. Last day, I spent 12 hours in a library. My last thing I thought, okay, if I can just get a grip on evolution.